Hello everybody, we recently reached 300 subscribers and I've decided to do another giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be subscribed, comment on any of our 2022 videos telling us what your favorite video of the new year so far is and what kind of videos you want to see in the future. We will be giving away a couple cold foil promo heroes. We have one cold foil Icelander.
We've also got one cold foil Data Doll, as well as one cold foil KO Berserker Runt.
The giveaway will last for the month of March 2022 with the prizes being raffled in April. Thank you for your continued support. Hope to see you all at the Pro Tour in May. Bye for now. Hello everybody and welcome to another Spark of Genius Flesh and Blood production, and we're here with another hero profile. So we finally got off our brute kick here. We finished all the brutes.
A lot of brute.
There are no more brutes to go for, at least for now. So we get like a lightning talent shadow brute or whatever. Oh, we have a shadow brute, just like a lightning brute or some random thing like that.
Yeah.
So our next hero profile is kind of dictated a little bit by the upcoming skirmish season, as Blitz and Battle Hardened is becoming more prevalent in the next couple months. Kano has been a bit of a nuisance for the last couple skirmish seasons. I've definitely racked up some wins. Our special guest today, Guy, coming out of the Quebec region. I'll just say Quebec. I'm just going to capture the whole province in one fell swoop here. So you do not represent your province, Guy. Just enjoy. Guy has been playing Kano all the way since Skirmish 1. He was a Kano main through and through. He brought that to Canadian Nationals, burnt my ass, burnt Yuki's ass. So now you can put a face to all those stories. This face, wait, that face up there. And so we're happy to have him here. He's won a lot of skirmishes. He's topped a lot of skirmishes. He's done really well in Blitz and dabbled in the CC, obviously. And so welcome to the channel, Guy.
Thanks guys for having me on.
And we're gonna of course poke his brain a bit. It's gonna be a bit of a tag team here because obviously we gotta get the full picture, right? I'm always joined by my co-creator. Well, yeah, I guess I am always joined. I don't think we've done a solo video yet, so keep it that way.
Never.
So I'm always joined by my co-creator, co-commentator, co-caster, co-compatriot, Mr. Rob.
Yes, sir.
Rob, how you doing?
Hello. Doing great. Thank you.
As we're recording, it's like going into top 8 to like the calling, so we're like sitting here like watching our predictions to see if it's good. But there was no Kano, so now I guess I don't care anymore. I was hoping like maybe like a random Kano.
One rogue Kano,
like, one rogue Kano, but neither of us predicted anything near the sort here. So as with hero profiles, if this is your first hero profile, welcome. And the general idea of this hero profile is to give you a primer on the hero. Maybe if this hero is right for you, a couple example cards, strengths, weaknesses, kind of like an overall primer for the hero. We're not really here to talk specifically about like deck lists or deck text or anything like that. We do have example lists to bring up different cards, it's really just using it as more of a prop than anything else. So that is kind of what you'll be seeing on the screen in the middle here. And then we're going to be kind of seeing Kano's place in the current format, maybe where he's in the future formats, and just in general how he works in Flesh and Blood, right? So I kind of want to start off here by asking Guy just a little taster question here. So tell me about what kind of player might be interested in Kano. What about like the hero or his playstyle might appeal to up and coming wizard mains, in your opinion?
Yeah, so for me, what appealed me to Kano was like, I feel like I'm always the one in control, because like, you know how Kano game goes. You just go down to whatever 1 or 2, and then you can still grab the win. So I feel like you're always the one in control in those games. So that's what appealed me the most. Second, I feel like it's more of a big brain deck, if I can say so. So
big
it's like
brain deck.
400 IQ
like
minimum.
It's really challenging. I mean, because like on the other decks, you just focus on how you want to block and then how you're going to attack on the next turn. But like with Kano, there's a third dimension. Like, do I want to go off during their turn? So like you always got to keep that in mind. So I feel it's quite challenging, but it's quite rewarding as well when you can do it pretty good.
Yeah, no, I definitely that's a really good term. That there's a third dimension. I never thought of it that way. That's totally true.
3D,
that
3D fab.
that instant speed really like big brain 4D chesses you. It's just like, especially in the mirror. My God, I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later. But just like in general, as Kano, like deciding whether to block is not just deciding whether to preserve health. It's deciding whether you're gonna use that to pitch or attack on their turn, right? Like so, there's like always a couple different decisions, especially with your resource management. This is like one of the heaviest resource management heroes in the game because you use it for so many different purposes. Outside of the hero skill too, and so that's kind of like that additional big brain that Guy was mentioning there. So
yeah,
I guess we could roll into the rest of the questions. Rob, take it away.
We can roll into the next question here. So, are there different Kano builds that you have seen or experimented with? And is there possibly like a higher red count or a higher blue count type of build, or more focusing on like wide attacks or one, go tall attack? Give me your thoughts about that.
Yeah, so like sure, there's a different couple build that I'll talk about, but the main thing I like about Kano is that they're so versatile because like you can do OTK, you can do tempo, you can do a lot of stuff even if you don't change the list. So that's one thing that's pretty nice with it. If I talk about different build, like back then when Iroh was running no rune 4, so like no Snapdragon Scalers, no Razor Reflex, there was a build where people were playing blue unmovable. So basically, you just try to shatter the needle, and then you just stack your deck, and you go stir fort, blazing.
Good times.
So, yeah, that was pretty fun. So that was before they went more aggro, I'd say. So that's the first. After that, I think there was a more like tempo Kano build where you play Scalding Rain, Red Reverberate, even Red Zap. So like basically, you just try to go two non-attack actions every turn, so you just strip their cards, and then when you catch them without like 1 or 2 blue, then you just kill them the turn after. So basically more of a tempo build. After that, like this one is pretty much a meme, but we called it the GTL Kano. So like
the gym tan laundry Kano.
GTL.
The Jersey Shore Kano. So like more the hybrid version. So you do run attack action like E-Strike, Life for Life.
What was that? Oh man, what was that? There was this arc card where you hit Rifting. It ran Rifting, right? Like it makes like a or has like a non-attack instant or whatever. And I'm just like, oh my god, what a card comes in for 6. So funny.
Yeah. Right. So like I didn't play the deck, but I saw some people run it, and I feel like it's not the best version of it, but the funny part is that people are gonna side. Like they're gonna put all their no rune up, so then your attack is they're gonna hit like 4 breakpoints and stuff, and like they're so scared that you're gonna go off. But basically, you just play your like a normal game, and then you just finish with stir fort or whatever. So it's quite interesting. I feel like maybe it could be good in CC, but I didn't work on the deck list that much. After that, we saw like I think it was skirmish season 2. Like Unkong players were playing like 2 Fate for Scenes, Cold Cap. So
more
that was pretty new. Yeah, more defensive. So basically, the game plan was just you play slow, you get the Nourishing Emptiness, and then you try to go off after that, or you just play slow, chip some damage, and end up with a Stir Fork for 40 with the nodes and stuff. So that's pretty much the main variants of the deck, I say. But after that, like I did experience with a couple of reds that I take out. Like I did try skirmish season 2, so like Red Reverberate, Red Aether Flare, Red Cindering Foresight. These are all great cards, but like you don't want to have too much red, which maybe we're gonna talk about after that. So I feel that these always come out. Even like I might get ashamed for this, but I did take out Tome of Aether.
It's blasphemous, sir. I don't know. You give the viewers like the worst Kano, so you can't sack tomes off the top. Like, why are you playing Kano?
Yeah. But like the idea behind it was like tome is generally bad in end, unless like you hit it off the top. It allows the craziest turn. But I feel like I wanted something more consistent, so I did try to take them out. It felt pretty good, honestly, but I mean, like, we would have to run 100 games to see like was it really the call or no.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. You lose that ability to kind of pop off when you get it off the top. So I guess
Yeah,
it
no, that's
definitely has a
no,
trade-off.
that's
Yeah.
it's totally true. I think rolling into like season 4, I guess, rolling into with like all the Everfest cards, I think there is definitely like pieces to revisit as far as playstyle, because now we have cards like Aether Wildfire. We have
Hmm.
cards like that was really the main card. I don't know if there's anything as
Right.
impactful as Aether Wildfire. So now those like that tempo build you was mentioning before with the Aether Flares, with the Reverberates, with the Scaldings, with the red snapbacks, like those become
The
really
snapbacks. Yeah.
really strong because you're able to just buff them by like stupid amounts off wildfire, right? So if you can get like a wildfire buff or with like a stir wildfire or something ridiculous like that, you want the cheapest possible cards to actually play out as many as
Right.
possible and maximize the buff and just sack like blazing aether or something ridiculous, right? And so I think it definitely lends more towards like some really good tempo style builds.
Hmm.
Because cards like Fork Lightning are just expensive. Like it's yeah, it can be good, but as you mentioned, like Stir Forked as being like in the past has been such a good win con. And it is like a style of deck where you chip with Voltic Bolt and Aether Spindle and you set up your Stir Forked. Like that's just like what you do, and then if you could get enough space to do it. But decks nowadays are going hyper aggro, and we'll talk a little bit about like strike weaknesses later. But like as the meta gets aggro, I feel like the Kano builds that I'm going need to just like you just can't slow down the game. It's like over in
Hmm.
2 turns, so it's just so hard to actually like get through those bigger costed kind of lines. But I think
Hmm.
that's kind of like the two trains of thought. Like you essentially, I think I would describe it as you either block or you don't, right? Like you either try to finish the game at least in blitz for sure. You either block or you don't. In CC it's different because you have to block first of all. You start at 30 life, so you're taking someone down from 40 versus 20, very different with the same exact cards, right?
Yeah.
But in blitz at least it's like you just don't block or you block a little bit, and that just kind of, unless it's like turn 1, right? And then the other play style, they have a little bit of armor, block a little bit, set up some bigger turns, and rinse and repeat every 2 turns or so, right? So that's kind of how I would break out the current build strategies, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of kind of cards come out like Stir Forked. So this wasn't the next question, I guess. What are some of the key cards that you consider that make up the main Kano build and possibly sideboard after Everfest? Maybe are there cards that make the cut in both Blitz and CC?
like Eric said, I think Halo Wildfire is like the best card that we got out of Halo Fest. So
Oh, by,
at
by far,
first,
I think.
yeah, at first when I saw that card, I was like, okay, I'm gonna cut the Fourth Lightning off the list. But then I realized like hold them on AB4, the Lantern, Art of Ice, Crown of Seeds, and then even with the Steadfast. So I was
Hmm.
Hmm.
like, yeah, I'm gonna need those back in. But at
Yeah.
first I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go super aggro, Kano tempo,
Yeah.
Red Reverberate, Halo Wildfire, Snapback, and just buzz them out on turn 2. But I mean, Odin
Yeah.
kind of make me rethink the list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Halo Wildfire is the best card we got from Everfest for sure for both CC and Blitz.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Uh, After that, I think it's Potion of Deja Vu. So
Hmm.
Potion of
this
Deja
one is,
Vu.
yeah,
That's
this
in the
one,
blue list down
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Here we go.
yeah. This one is quite good as well because like if you can set
Probably in
that card
Blitz.
up, you can do yeah, in this you can
Yeah.
do
Here we
the most nasty stuff with it.
go.
So like, let's say I don't know, you pitch a tome for Crucible, you pitch a blue, and then you play whatever Voltic Bolt.
Hmm.
After
Here
that,
it is.
you pitch a blue, you activate Kano, so you got now 2 blue and Tome in your pitch zone. You break the Potion of Deja Vu in response to Kano. You put them like the Tome, 2 blues. Kano resolve,
Hmm.
you banish the Tome, you draw back 2 blues, and then you just keep going. So
Hmm.
it kind of allows the like some crazy turn with Tome. So
Mm,
Hmm.
right. Right.
maybe I should play Tome after all.
I'm
You're
telling you,
convincing
it's
yourself to go
not
Yeah.
back
that
to the
bad.
original
You gotta
plan.
bring it back to. You're thinking about it. You're like, oh, right. There's this
Man,
thing I can do.
yeah, they're back in the list. I'm not gonna lie. So
Yeah.
I think this one is quite good. The only
Yeah.
downside is that it's another non-black, so we got 2 of those. We got 2 E-Pot, and we got Eye of Ophidia. So like,
5 cards.
yeah, 5 card that doesn't block. Also, it's not a wizard, so it doesn't pair good with Sonic Boom. So like these are the downside, but I think it's still quite good. After that, we got Scour. So
the majestic.
Scour, yes, here we go.
Yeah.
There, yeah.
So
sorry, the bottom's cut off a little bit, but people can
see
look
the
it
picture,
up.
They can look it up later. It's fine.
Yeah. So this one, I think it's like one of in Blitz because like it's good for certain matchups. So it's good against Prism for all the 0-cost auras and the spectral shields. It's good into Chain because you can break the Soul Shackle.
Right.
And then it's good into Viscerai as well because like I don't know, let's say they lined up some Mordred Titan to read the runes or whatever, and then you just blow them up before they can go off. So I think it's quite good for those matchup, but I don't see like 2 being necessary. So I think one of make the list. And the last one I have in mind from Everfest is Emeritus Scalding.
Yep.
Especially in blue, because like you hit this off the top, and then it just you jump it up with by 1 with the Crucible, and then it's just a blue that attacks for 5. So it's quite good if you hit it off on the top. In red, I'm not. Maybe in red, I think I would play it in CC, but I think I'd rather have Voltic Bolt in Blitz.
I would agree.
Yeah,
I definitely it's Voltic in this list. Emeritus Scolding is just like a better blue,
it's
which Kano did have a kind of. Kano did have some kind of like filler blues. It's very similar to Dash in that respect. Like you had a bunch of filler pitch cards that you never really played that often, and I think Kano definitely had some room to improve in that category.
Yeah.
I have like similar thoughts, especially like Wildfire. I definitely agree. It's like a extremely strong win condition. I think in CC it's a lot easier to like warrant putting the 3 just because you get more time to bring the combos, where I think this particular list just has 1 because you run 1 forked also. So and you don't want to like push it on all the reds, right? And so it's kind of like I think this particular list still has Nourishing Emptiness. I don't consider Nourishing a core card, but it's like this. It's right under all the core cards for Nourishing Emptiness because it's just especially in Blitz. It's a 6 power, so it's for Prism Heralds. You could pop like an Erudition kind of thing.
Right.
I think the ability to punish those high arcane barrier decks, the ones running along Null Rune and such, as you kind of mentioned the
hybrid.
The old him, the hybrids. Like, maybe they happen to have a D-React as a slight, right? But like in general, you can punish those kinds of decks. So I wouldn't call it core, but it's in my experience as being a fairly strong card. I think in this list, Scour is a 2, and I think the reason Scour is a 2 is because Prism is such an awful matchup. When they just stack a whole bunch of spectrals and you can't really do anything about it. It's like if they get a prismatic shield, you just kind of lose eventually, and you can't really do much about it. And I think it's not so much that you need 2. I think it's just you need to see 1, and I think that the chance of you kind of seeing 1 when you're running 2 is just greater. But I think Scour going to 1 is also kind of okay in general. And then CC, it's easy because you could just side them out, right?
Exactly.
If you don't do them, depending on the matchup. So Scour is definitely more of a sideboard card in the CC game. With that, Emeritus Scolding, definitely a 2 of in blue for CC, 3 of in Blitz. 2 of in Blitz, 3 of in CC for the blue. I think a 3 of in CC in the sideboard does make a lot of sense, depending if you're going like heavy Wildfire builds. It does kind of make sense if that's like the main strategy into different decks that run a lot of Arcane, where you're going to want to do stuff on their turn if they ever want to do stuff at you on their turn also. And so that's always kind of nice to see the red one because it comes in for 6 on their turn, I believe. 6 on their turn? Yeah, 6 on
probably.
Their turn. 4,
2, 4, 3,
4,
5,
6.
4, 6,
So it's quite nice that way. I think there's also, I don't think we touched on Sigil of Parapets, the defense reaction. It's not in the Blitz list because awkward kind of card to run a D-React because you can actually just whiff off the top if you get the Sigil. If you get Sigil of Parapets off the top in the Kano.
List.
Yeah, in the CC list, it definitely comes in the more like aggro matchups, whereas you do need more time to set your stuff up. This list, by the way, is Justin Graham's list. It's a copy of I believe you want a PQ with this. Just to be clear, this is not our list. It's just kind of me and Guy might be making some comments on it later. But as far as Sigil, I definitely do understand the point of that, especially in the higher hyper aggro matchups, hyper aggressive matchups. Meredith Scolding. I think there's some other cards that we got, like the what pry or whatever. There were some other random wizard cards that didn't really make much sense.
Didn't make the list.
To be considered core. I think the potion, as Guy mentioned, potion of deja vu, extremely strong.
Right.
It just turns your brick hands into like not brick hands. Like it turns that as Guy mentioned, tome is only really good off the top. You can run it from hands and do some things like you can play a tome, draw blues, and then play off the top. Yeah, okay, but it's not nearly as good as playing it off the top, right? So it allows you to really get that ability to stack it with something specific. Because you can also like tome, put something else, put a blue, stack it with Kano, and then do like a +1 draw one if you don't necessarily need the 2 cards, right? Depending on your situation. So that's also quite good. The Clarity Potion is something else that I've put in the Blitz list. I don't consider it core. I'm just kind of testing it out in the Blitz list because Op 2 is just in Blitz. It allows you to run Skullcap easier, right? So if you're running Skullcap in the Blitz matchup, especially against Prism is the big one, because you're able to block with like a 3-block and a Skullcap on the Erudition, which is the big one you need to block. Clarity Potion gives you that backup for the Op 2, which in Blitz is just so important. Not as important in CC, but I think you could still like get away with it in CC. But in Blitz, I just feel like it's that extra. If you need to run Skullcap, you can still have an Op 2 off the top. Like if you pitch a blue for Kano, get it off the top for free, turn 1, turn 2, whatever. Or like you pitch, get like a Voltic or whatever off the top with Kano at instant speed, and you play Clarity from hand, Arsenal Pass, stuff like that. I think it could really like help on your big explosive turns. Other than that, I don't think anything else has changed as far as the core list. Like the rares, you got stir the Aether Winds, you got Voltic Bolt, you got the supers, Tome, Lessons of Lava. I think all these cards are still kind of
just
in the list at the same.
Yeah,
staples in the list.
Right.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have been asking me about Eye of Ophidia as like, do I need an eye to run Kano? No, I actually did have an eye in Skirmish Season 1, and that's when I won the most skirmishes with Kano. I didn't actually own the eye.
Yeah,
I only bought it like way later in like Season 2 or something. It's just because it's strong, but as Kano mentioned, as Guy mentioned,
he is the embodiment of Kano.
It doesn't block. It doesn't work with Sonic. It doesn't work on Lessons. It whiffs off the top for Kano. Like, there's a lot of negatives to this card, but when it's good, it's super good. Like, it's peak performance. So
I think for those who are worried more about the price tag of the card, as LSS kind of pointed out, like they don't want Fables to be staples in any means, but Eye is coming close, I would say. If you have the Eye, run it, but if not, don't worry. As Eric mentioned, the downsides are actually quite big for Eye.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other Majestics, like Gaze the Aegis, like the ones from Crucible, Gaze the Aegis, Chain Lightning.
Yeah, like
also very strong cards.
Really good. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
I think that's pretty much it. As far as equipment goes, I think nothing really much has changed with Everfest. I will talk about like key cards later.
I think it'll come up later. So
yeah, for the equipment. So we'll talk about equipment later. But as far as like the main decks, I think we've pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, because I feel like everybody run pretty much the same yellows and red, but then, like you said, the blues can depend on your playstyle, but they're not that relevant anyway. So like,
yeah.
What do you think about? I know you have a love-hate relationship with Sindering Foresight, but what do you think about Sindering Foresight in the reds and the blues in Blitz and CC? Like specifically that card. Like I have like such a love-hate. Like sometimes this card is like awful as all hell, and I just want literally any other card. But sometimes I'm like, you just win off Sindering from Arsenal. I've seen you win off Sindering like red from Arsenal.
You've experienced losing to it.
So what do you think about the blues and the reds and like in the different formats?
I feel like red is probably one of in Blitz because like since you got Aether Wildfire now, like you just play this during their turn, you see Wildfire on top, and basically you just win from there. So I think it's maybe one of, but again, like we don't want to run too many reds, and like the list is pretty tight already, so it's hard to add it. So maybe one of. In blue, I used to hate it. Like we did talk about it back then in Skirmish Season 1 or 2, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm still not a big fan because like it blocks for 2.
Right.
So it's not that good. And now with Aether Wildfire, you rather have like low cost blue spell like zap or
Snapbacks,
whatever.
maybe.
Yeah, stuff like that. So I'm not a big fan of Cinderace Foresight. I know most of the people run it in blue, like 2 of, but I feel I'd rather have something off the top that's gonna do damage.
And if you're pitching them anyway, for the most part, the 3-block kind of makes sense. You don't really use them for the effect. Although Emeritus Scolding's kind of getting pretty good, but for the most part, it's a pitch or block kind of scenario.
I think the +1 is good, obviously, because that's standard across. Like, it's only the op that's different. But I'm totally like now in the mindset of, hey, you're playing on their turn. Cindering is an instant even from hand or from arsenal. So getting it off the top feels so bad. You know what I mean?
Right,
like you get it off the top.
You're doubling down on the instant ability.
You've just paid 3 for a Cindering Foresight that's already an instant anyways because it's their turn.
Yeah, it's considered pretty much like a whiff off the top, I would say.
It's not a whiff. I don't consider it a whiff. A whiff is way worse than a playable. I think if you ask most Katos, they'll happily take Cindering instead of like an iron video off the top. Oh, 100%.
I use the word almost. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you shouldn't say it's almost. A whiff is a whiff, but like the off one can actually be pretty important if you plan on keep going. And the +1 is still +1 because it's usually at least one energy of value essentially because it's a Crucible of Aether Weave. So at least at the very least, you're paying 3 for 1 of value, and then Talisman opts 2 for free, right? So the opt 1 is literally no value. So you're getting like a -2 on the exchange, but it's better than getting a -3 on the exchange if you whiff. That's kind of how I see on it. But I definitely see in CC the potential to. Why don't you go back to the CC list for a sec to see if there were any Cinderings in this list? I don't think I remember seeing that.
I don't see it in red, and I don't see it in blue. Yeah.
Which I kind of understand because it's like, well, Aether Wildfire is already doing that job. Like you're already coming in with Wildfire to buff all your stuff. Yeah. So it's more imperative to get those out. So I definitely don't see it as much as being good in CC and being okay in Blitz because some of your games go really quick. I was just curious to see what you thought
sounds
about
good.
It. We can move on.
Yeah, sounds good. So now that we've looked at kind of the core cards and the core kind of Blitz versus CC cards, what matchups does Kano struggle with overall? And would you consider a favorable matchup, or what would you consider a favorable matchup for Kano?
So I think there's 3 heroes that Kano struggles into. So first, Oldhim, because like I said, you can run AB4 with the Lantern, as well as Crown of Seeds, so we can prevent 5 damage. So that's pretty much a break point on Sonic Boom, Lesson in Lava, and stuff like that. And Art of Ice and Channel Lake Frigid, they just both they shit on Kano, if I can say it that way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like they start their turn with the Art of Ice and they got like 3 cards left in it, so you're like, yeah, I don't want to go off right now because like if they have 2 blue, I won't do much.
Yeah.
And then after that, they just use Oakenhorn or whatever, and you're like, yeah, now I'm doomed. So I think like that's the bummer, and Steadfast as well. So from Everfest in red, it costs 3, and it allows you to prevent 6 damage from the source of your choice. So like it just shut down Aether Wildfire, and like if you plan to OTK them, like that's what we used to do to beat Oldhim by then. So we would just pitch, stir, fort, and 2 blazing. So and you have 2 potion on top, so you can just stir fort for 14. You prevent, I'd say 4 back then. You take 10, you're blazing for 10 more, and then you're blazing for whatever
they took. Yeah.
Yeah, but now with like if they get Steadfast and they realize you're doing this, they just keep it in Arsenal and they shut down your turn. So I feel like Oldhim is pretty bad right now. And I did see your vid about like Blitz tier list, and I feel like Oldhim is probably the best deck in the format. So that's pretty bad for Kano, I'd say.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. What about favorable matchups? So what is Kano good into?
Well, we got.
Is there more negatives? Matchup. Go ahead.
Yeah. I wish there was only one, but there is also Prism, like you said. So, like Prism is more aggressive in Blitz than in CC, so they're not on the aura plan. Usually.
Right, they're on the Herald plan.
Yeah, but like every arrow, like red arrow of protection, attacks for 7, and you don't have much armor. Everyone of edition is the worst. So like Eric said, I think you need to run skull cap into this because like if they get it turn 1 or turn 0, you just lose the game from there. And like if they get a Genesis early on, you're pretty doomed as well. So I think like Prism, because you can break the aura, and
Right.
you can break the aura as well. So I think it's pretty tough for Kano. And the third one is Boost Dash, which was already bad, but I think it got worse. I don't recall the card. I think it's
the
Techlo
Dissolutions? Oh, Techlo Pounder, sorry. Yes.
Techlo Pounder, yeah.
The one that gives the boost
yeah.
cards
times.
+2. Yeah.
Yeah. So they just start with this card, and then they outguess you. They kill you on turn 2 or 3, basically. And I don't know if people are running it, but I think it's Signal Jammer, the other one.
Right.
Signal Jammer,
The one.
It prevents you from playing more than one non-attack action card. So like you can't even Stir Fort, or you can't even Wildfire and follow up with something. So I think like it was already a bad matchup, but it just got worse from Everfest. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I think Oldham is like kind of not by far, but by pretty sizable margin your worst matchup, just because Steadfast just, I don't know, it's just broken. Not broken, but like into the Kano matchups, it just feels unwinnable. And then I'd probably put Dash next. I've won against a lot more Prisms than I have against Dashes, because at least with Prism, like if for some reason they are putting some like spectral shields and like zero cost auras, at least like Scour is a thing. But of course, like with the Herald plan, it's like, okay, well, Skull Cap, you could block one and maybe nourishing a second one or something like that. But there is like a game plan, because they don't usually run a full suite of arcane barriers, so it's a little bit easier to roll through that. Whereas Dash, it can be super aggressive and still has like Visiatronic and shit like that.
Yeah, just like run arcane Null Rune 4 if we want to.
Yeah, you could run Null Rune 4 with minimal disruption and run like Null Rune 3 with no disruption, pretty much, because you didn't really use your headpiece anyways, right?
Exactly.
So I think those are definitely. I don't think there's anything else that comes to mind as being really bad. Like Kano's really bad into. I think those are like 3 unfavorable, like maybe 25-30% win rate.
Yeah.
Like I think that's still being generous, honestly, but like that's probably like 25-30. It's like Kano has to have like some crazy ass deck that's like built just for like some of these different like if you go GTL Kano, you probably have a better shot into some of these decks.
Fair enough, yeah.
But like not spoiling anyone's surprise here, but like probably the new meta is GTL Kano.
Yeah. That's a prediction.
So what are we on the favorable
So what about
now?
favorable? Yeah, let's talk about what he's good at. Yeah.
What is he good at?
I was gonna
Everyone
say everything else. Like,
Is that true though?
No, it's not. Like, I think Vis and Chain, it's maybe slightly favored for Kano, but like Vis got really good with Everfest, like Revel and Runeblood and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can push, like you can kill you in 2 turns.
Right.
But I still think it's lightly Kano favor, but this one is pretty much 50-50, same for Chain. I think Kano is still favored into Ira, Dory. Like, these are relevant deck. I feel it struggles a bit against Rhinar. But I mean, like, it depends on the role, because, like, you guys add demos on the last Euro profile for Rhinar, and I did play some with demos back then in the first skirmish season, and, like, they can kill you on turn 0, so they blood rush.
Whenever they drop Blood Rush, it's pretty much you gotta kill them before Blood Rush.
Yeah, but like on turn 0, they just go Blood Rush, so you're like, not gonna respond to it, and then they just intimidate your whole end, and you attack for 16, and you just die right there.
Yeah, no armor to block the intimidated the attack. Yeah.
No, so like
that's fair.
Yeah, it's the highs and the lows with Rhinar. So I feel like beside the first 2 I said, I feel like Kano was pretty decent into everything, and like Vis and Chain are probably 50-ish. Yeah,
that's fair. I think I would agree with this. Like pretty much skill based matchup into a lot of the rune blades, probably close to 50-50. I think struggles into Bravo just because Steadfast, Bravo could still use Steadfast.
Right. Anyone can
still
use
run
Steadfast.
Arcade Barrier.
Yeah.
Well, it's a Guardian card, but
exactly.
It's still like any of the Guardians can use it. So I think Bravo is also probably unfavorable Not as unfavorable because he doesn't have access to ice cards like Oldhim does, like
Yeah, the
Channel
ice is
and
really
things like
disruptive.
that.
Yeah, the Heart of
So
Ice
it's not
especially.
as bad. Yeah, it's not as bad, still bad. Probably that, and then yeah, Rhinar, especially going for those like OTKs, I think you have to respond to the Blood Rush, especially if you have a bunch of blues to try to get cards out of hand. In hopes that they actually pitch and get rid of their cards, because it's a matter of like, okay, well, how many blues can they really have? Because they pitched a blue to Blood Rush super early, right? And they have to actually hit off the additional cost. So if you can respond to it and try to get at least a card or two, then the damage output is severely reduced because they're essentially just playing.
I
they're
don't
playing
even
off the
know.
top, right?
I don't know if Rhino would ever choose to block it though. If they're seeing you react to it, it's like, okay, do your thing. I'll take maybe 10 to 15 damage. Like, I don't really care because I'm pretty confident I can kill you with 2 claws and a 6 attack card, right?
Which is fair. Which is why you need to like really bring in like the oh man, what's the talisman?
Right. Just so you can do that with some minimal setup on turn 0, pretty much, if you have to.
Yeah, so you can opt to if you absolutely need to, and like if you have 4 blues, you're probably gonna want talisman, and then try to actually like swing something together. Especially if you see like a tome on top, you can get some really crazy shit. And so those are the matchups where you really have to like it's over in 2 turns. Whether you like
you're looking to
OTK
them on turn 0, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Because ideally, like you want if you're Kano going into Rhinar, you want first. Like very rarely Kano wants to go first, but Kano wants first into Rhinar just because like you might not survive another turn. You don't want to let him get the turn 1 setup, and you don't want to let him get all that free intimidate damage, right? So you want a Kano try to do a little bit of pitch, set up an arsenal. If you can sack some potions turn 1, that kind of thing. So it's like one of the only matchups where you actually want to go first, which is kind of funny.
I think the other one I want to go first is Oldhim now, because like
Oldhim I agree also.
That makes sense
because you just need to chip, right,
before Heart of Ice can come in.
And, yeah, exactly, and they don't have anything in Arsenal, so they can crown.
Mm-hmm.
So I think these are the 2 matchups I want to go first.
Yeah,
that's also true.
Awesome. Okay, great. So now let's look at the equipment side of stuff. So, what would you consider the proper equipment loadout for Kano? And are there budget options for any of those slots?
So I can start with like what the best equipment are in my opinion. So I think Talismanic Lens is the one you want to go to for. Yeah, exactly. You do want Skull Cap, like we said, for Prism, and also Benji, because like other than that they can OTK you. For armor, Tunic is the go-to. For the gloves, you want the nodes, Metacarpus nodes, and for the boots, you want the Storm Striders. So that's pretty much standard. Everybody runs these. For the budget option, then for the chest piece, you can either run Robe of Rapture.
That's one that gives the +3 resources.
Gives you 3 resources. Yep.
Yeah, and other than that, I think you can run Deep Blue as well. So you can sink a card to get the 3 resource, so it can filter if you have a red end. Yeah. So I think these are the 2 other chest pieces you can run. For the boots, I feel like Storm Striders are pretty much a must in the deck. Other than that, you can run Mage Master boots. So it allows you like to play through non-attack action during your turn, but I feel like Striders, you really need those to kill them.
It's a staple. Yeah, and it adds so much pressure because you can actually go off of your hand on their turn instead of having to use Kano's ability to pop the top.
Yeah.
I don't know if Eric, you agree with any of these or all of them.
Pretty much all of them. I think some of the other, like your gloves, are like Metacarpus is pretty important to get that extra damage through. I think there aren't really any. I mean, you can run Iron Rod Gauntlet, like you can run different kind of block. Especially if you're trying to like get a slower game on or try to like survive slightly longer. But I feel like, especially in Blitz, even in CC for that matter, just the extra value you get off nodes is pretty overwhelming as far as what nodes can actually do for you on a longer setup turn. Also, not a terribly expensive card, with the limited version being a thing that you could do in the Majestic level. And then Tunic, I think Guy already mentioned, you have the Robe of Rapture. I think the headpiece, like if you don't have Skull Cap, you run the Talisman pretty much. Ragamuffins is such a weird, like,
Mhm.
yeah, I totally understand it, especially in a more CC scenario, like where you actually have the opportunity to set up a hand where, yeah, you actually are on one card and you can Kano and put it on top with Ragamuffins and draw a card or whatever. It's like, okay, that's like, yeah, it's really, really cool in CC, but I feel like his card's just bad in Blitz, in my opinion, in my very
Fair enough,
limited
yeah.
testing. I remember, like, I gave it a little college try here, and
Yeah.
I dropped out. I dropped out is what
Dropped
happened.
out of
So I went right
Ragamuffins
back
school.
to
Yeah.
I went right back to Talisman as like my go-to. Just it's so like
Yeah.
hard setup, and I think this came from the Italian nationals or whatever, and, the wizard player, the Kano player had that in their list, and they're like, "That's so good." I'm like, yeah, in CC maybe, but so I would be careful with Ragamuffins. You really have to know your Kano quite well to like effectively use Ragamuffins better than just Op 2. So I would be careful with Ragamuffins, but still it can be a decent card depending on the scenario.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty much it in terms of equipment. There really isn't, like, we didn't get a new. We got the new wizard weapon, the Kraken, the Kraken
Kraken's
of the
Aether
whatever.
Vein. Aether
Aether
Vein.
Vein. Just run the Crucible
Yeah.
as a token. Like, there's like no, like, what is the reason in Kano to not have an automatic +1? Like, first of all, you need to 3-pitch to Kano. Like, you can't really be using your 3-pitch to be like dealing 1 damage.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, this sounds awful for Kano, honestly. But maybe there's some like crazy ass control Kano build I don't know about. But Kano in his current form doesn't make any sense to like, he's not like, do you ever see him like with a staff? You ever see Kano with a staff? No. This is a wizard with a wand and everything. That's what you got to use here. So I wouldn't really agree with Kraken's Aether Vein. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it in terms of equipment.
Yeah.
I would like to see something else in terms of the like
maybe
like
the
a
boot
headpiece, like a
slots.
wizard.
Or...
Well, I'd like to see a wizard headpiece or a wizard like a replacement, because none of them are wizard pieces. They're like skullcap.
That's fair.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't think there is a wizard headpiece. So that'd be kind of cool to get one to get a more like concentrated wizard effect.
Okay.
But
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense to me. Yeah. I think in terms of equipment, he has like, I mean, he can replace a lot of the stuff with, you know, the cheaper variants, but the Stormstriders really is like the only option that I can see.
That is the card. Like, if you want to play Kano, like, burn the $50-$60, like, Stormstriders is
Like,
not
that's
that
like a
expensive,
must
actually.
buy
Like,
pretty much. Yeah. Like
Yeah, that
70,
I would say
80 maybe
probably-
now. I think it's gone up a
don't think
bit.
it's that expensive. Well, yeah. Either way, if you want to like invest anything into Kano, probably that's where I'd start, because the rest of his cards aren't that expensive. So
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
And like you said,
Oh.
sorry, so like, sure, it's not an equipment, but like you said, I think the eye is not like, it's not needed in Kanos. Sure, it's a nice ad, but I did with a bunch of skirmish without it. And then there was a fun fact. There was even like, we did play Team Canada against Team Singapore back then.
Oh,
and
man,
both of you
whoa.
guys
Throwback.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're commentating.
Yeah. And like, if I recall, Eric did mention like Guy is not winning the eye, and like Ron was like, how come? And he was like, he doesn't want to spend $700 on a card. So that was
fair.
That was the price back then. So like,
Yeah.
I don't think it's really needed. Sure, it's a nice ad. It's nice into the mirror as well. But like, I don't feel like you really need it. Stormstriders are I think the only card you really need in the build. Yeah.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Okay, so I know we kind of talked about this, you know, quite extensively throughout the discussion, but what are some of the key attack lines for Kano, and did these lines change with the introduction of Everfest?
I think the first one is probably Stir Fort. So you play Sturdy 8 wins. It allows you to play your next one as an instant. It adds +3 damage in red. And then you just play Fort so it becomes 10 damage, and you can buff it with the Crucible in the nodes. So I think that's the more standard one. And I think it's one of your best win condition. So that's the first one. Then we can go into, like we said, Potion of Deja Vu with Tome of Aether Wind. There's like a million of possibility with this card.
Yeah.
So I think like that's the new one we got from Everfest.
Yep.
Other than that, I think Snapback in red allows a lot of a nice combo. It's not making the list, I think, in the template you guys have, but it pairs so good with, let's say, gauges. Yeah. So like,
CC it does, not in Blitz though.
Yeah. So like, let's say you play Gaze the Ages, you hold priority, you respond with snapback. So then you up two, it comes back to end. Same with Chain Lightning. It can allow good stuff.
Mm.
It pairs good with Tome of Aether as well. So I think like snapback is a good one. And
Mhm.
like back then we used to run Red Aether Flare as well. So you could just
Yep.
go 30 Aether Win, Red Aether Flare, and then you add snapback for like 6, 7, 8 plus damage. So I think
Mhm.
like that's another one. Other than that, I think more another of the classic line is play Lesson in Lava.
Mm.
Then you search your deck for either Chain Lightning if you have already the Blazing in hand on Arsenal, or then
Yep.
you just lesson into Blazing Aether. So I think
The
that's
lesson,
another
lesson
good.
blazing, classic.
Yeah, the classic. Yeah. So I think it's another good win condition that you need to have in the deck.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I totally remember a lot of these just being like core staple lines. You can see the CC list does like run the flare, runs the wildfire.
Right.
I think I feel like the red snapback is getting more important as being like the glue that holds like a lot of
Mm.
these plays together. Because then even on like a basic wildfire snapback, like it comes in as an instant. You don't need to Kano it. It can
Yeah.
come from hand. It can come from arsenal. As long as you do the wildfire on their turn, either off the top or off like a boot stir or something like that, like a boot stir into your wildfire, and then snapback can just be from your hand. You don't need to
Mm-hmm.
like screw with the top deck or opt or anything like that.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I feel like snapback, as Guy mentioned, the gaze chain as being like the staple where it turns on these cards because you hold priority, sees the snapback comes in for the damage, then the chain or the whatever you play the gaze, then it will resolve and either get the next card as an instant in terms of chain lightning, or gaze goes back to your hand. Those were like the bread and butter ones, but I feel like the addition of Aether Wildfire really makes it quite strong. And even with Aether Flare, because you can start uh, chaining your Wildfire to your Flare to a snapback, right? And I feel like that's going to become a
Mm.
new go lower, go lower to the ground, a little
Go
bit
low.
cheaper of an expense. You know what I mean? Because Flare only costs one,
Yeah.
snapback only costs one, Wildfire two. So with an energy potion or two, like a tunic resource, that kind of thing, you can go from wildfire for 5 or 6, even if you get like 3 across. Buff the flare. Flare comes in for like 5 or 6, and then you have the flare buff and the wildfire buff all on the snapback. And if you manage to hit a blazing after that, it's quite strong, right? And I feel like you could just like keep stacking those plus X multipliers,
Mm.
or able to expand it without using like these expensive cards like fork, because a fork could pay for a flare and a wildfire. Like that's how you have to think about it as terms of value wise, but you don't need to buff it because it inherently just does the damage, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like those are kind of key lines. Deja vu, of course, as Guy mentioned, is kind of ridiculous.
Right.
With that, I think there's also I think the other line that people kind of, it's not as obvious, but like hitting a big hitting like an Aether Flare, Aether Wildfire into a forked lightning to like automatically get the buff. So if you hit like a Wildfire and get 3 across, and then you're able to like pitch for a forked lightning and you get the automatic buff for forked lightning, it can come in for like 8 or 10 right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
That is also something that you can do. I think the bread and butter spindles are still like, as you can see in the CC list, it's actually running. Sorry,
Yeah.
this is the
This was the
Blitz
blitz
list. The
list
CC
too.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the CC list, it actually runs 3 red spindles and 3 yellow spindles.
Yes.
And
That's right.
that's definitely not standard, or at least standard as like it used to be played. But I kind of get it. I'm kind of liking it actually, just like spindle for 4 off a blue. But it's just opt is just so good in setting those combos up that I'm mentioning.
Yeah.
If you're not running the talisman, which this deck does not run talisman, it runs the skullcap.
Yeah.
Uh,
Purely skullcap.
because you need space for the sideboard. I actually do like the yellow spindles here, and there's a couple things that you could run with attack plans. I think we've kind of talked about the basic ones. Reverberate also, banishing a Tome of Aetherwind and cards like that. Like even if you hit Reverberate for 1 or 2, you could still play a whole bunch of cards from your hand.
Right. Yeah.
And that's still like quite strong. I think other than that, it just comes down to like math, right? As he mentioned, the big brain part of it. People will sit in the tank for like 5 minutes just to like There's been situations where I've totally been off by one resource. I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it, right?
Just
see what happens. And it's kind of like the better you get, the better you are at evaluating resource and timing and damage. But as far as the lines, I think those are the key ones to look out for. I kind of want to ask you, what do you think about these yellow spindles? I don't know if you have any opinion on that in the CC list.
Yeah, I think it might make the list in CC because like let's say you against Starvo, I think it's I think he put it in for mainly Starvo or maybe a hyper aggro matchup that's around the low null room because like people the worst feeling when you play against Kano is like when they up, right? Like if they up, you feel like I'm gonna get
you hate it.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. So like I feel like it forced people to pitch some cards to prevent the damage. So I feel like maybe that's the best use out of it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Anything else that's like crazy in the CC list that like kind of piques your interest that we're going through? I think it's mainly pretty standard stuff. Other than like the spindle, there's the I think there's some interesting blues. They have the enchanting melody in there. I'm guessing it's sideboarded to Starvo or something, or like hyper aggro, just to get it off the top.
Yeah, I think so. And like it does cover the window as well, so I think that's the best use out of it because like you just lay it out, you don't get the frostbite, and you keep your full end. So I think like that's the main use for it.
Yeah, for sure. That totally makes sense. I think that's really all I saw in there. So I guess we can move on.
Yeah, for sure. So we've already kind of touched upon key cards. We talked about the Stormstriders being the epitome of like what you need in this deck really to succeed. Are there any other Majestics or Supers that you'd consider must buys for people who are looking to be more competitive with the deck, and maybe cards that can be used pretty much in almost any like archetype of Kano?
Like I feel like I'm repeating myself, but Wildfire is a must buy. So Aether Wildfire.
We're emphasizing this card.
Blazing Aether as well.
Yeah.
So like it's the one that
like bread and butter for Kano.
Yeah. So like you hit them for whatever 10 during the return, and then you just add 10 more. So I think it's a staple in the deck.
Yeah.
We didn't talk much about it, but I feel like Sonic Boom is a must-buy as well.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So like when I talked about a card that you don't want to hit, Sonic Boom is like they're gonna pitch to prevent it. Like, 100%. So I think like you really need this card, and like if you catch them without no rune or without pitch left, then you just crack the lens, you see what's up, and then you can go off with Sonic Boom. So I think that's a must-buy as well. Lesson in Lava is another one that we talked about. So you just can lesson into Blazing, and then you just hit them for 12 or much if you can pump it up. So Fork Lightning is another staple. It's I think it's super rare if I recall.
It is super rare.
Yeah.
So, now I know you talked about kind of swapping some in for the Aether Wildfire. Do you think that just having at least one forked in the deck is worth it, or do you think you would always want to run 2 or 3?
I think you like in Blitz you want at least one for sure, but I think now with Oldhim you need 2 because like you need to push some damage during the game. So I think like
2 is pretty much a must-buy.
2 makes the list. Other than that, for the Majestic, we talked about it, but Gaze the Ages, it's probably one of the best blues. Yeah, because like it allows you to up 2. Most of the time, you can pair it off with another card, so it just comes back into your hand. So basically, it's a free up 2. Chain Lightning, maybe I can ask Eric about it because like. I know some people run it, some people don't. I think in the CC list that you guys have from the guy that won the Progress, I think he did cut it out.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the list. Yeah, this is just the Blitz list here that has it.
Yeah. So like, I think it's a one-of because it pairs nice with Lesson. You search for this and then you just play the Blazing if you have it in Arsenal. So I think one-of is needed, but. I don't know what's your thought about it, Eric?
I think that I can see it going to 1. I think it's one of those glue cards that I mentioned before, kind of like Snapback, that allows like pretty crazy plays off the top. So it's like one of those win more, go wider turns. I think like in your hand is kind of depressing. In the arsenal, it's not that great. So it's really like that go off the top. So I don't think it's as important. Like as far as a must buy, I don't think it's a must buy. I think
Right.
it's just a good card. I don't think it's that expensive though. So if you can get it for like a cheap-ish price, like it's still fine. But I don't think I would run a full playset as far as like Blitz or CC for that matter. It's just like some strategies just really help. Like it helps get blazing out of your hand, right? Because it helps give you that extra instant. It helps, and that's like one of the main uses, at least historically speaking, for chain lightning. It helps you play multiple one-cost reds because you can pair it with snapback to then play like a scalding after. But other than that, it's not nearly as like instrumental as gaze, in my opinion. So I probably wouldn't put it in the same kind of ballpark as that.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
but
I'm noticing here there is a majestic that we haven't talked about, but appears in like pretty much all the lists here. Toma Findel. It's more expensive majestic. It is one of the original, like from Welcome to Wraith, and it's a card that's widely used in a lot of decks. So how important would this card be in most of the Kano builds? This is a card that we can cut if we're trying to be more budget.
That's another funny one because like I did cut it out back then for some matchup. Like if you expect like back in the first two skirmish season, it was mostly Ira, Kano, or Dory.
Yeah.
And like it wasn't that good into Dory because most of the time you didn't need to block. You can't like just ignore the downblade. But I feel like now it's crazy good into Oldhim because it allows you to get back some life, so you can.
I think you needed it to control. Just like because you're not gonna win if you just have like 4 cards and you just try to chip 1 damage every like 2 turns. Right. It's just not worth it, right? And I think this is definitely a 2 of in Blitz. I think in CC it kind of depends. I'd probably run at least 2 or 3. Just the draw is really good. The health gain is not as great. It's just a slightly worse version of Tome the Aether Wind. Right off the top, just costs 1, right? So maybe you have to pay with Tunic or something, but still 2 cards. It's still like very like what Kano can do with a singular card is by far like some of the most ridiculous variations that you could picture with that like 1 additional card, and very few heroes can do that with just an additional card for resources. And so I feel like drawing cards is exponentially more important, and so I think Thomas is going to stay a relative staple. I don't know if you need full play sets, but like if Oldhim is running around and it is one of your worst matchups, I suggest you definitely run 2 of it. 2 of them Blitz.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And kind of an off the cuff kind of question, but you're talking about kind of control. Which kind of archetype does Kano struggle the most against? I'm assuming control or maybe hyper aggro. Is there like a spectrum of where kind of Kano fits into what he's good against, what he's weak against? Yeah.
I think it's kind of interesting because it didn't used to be control. Like into control, I think like we had our video earlier, like Kano, like me playing Kano into Oldhim is just like, yeah, you just set up your Stir Fork Blazing, or
right?
Because
you have time, you have space here now to set up,
which is so much time. Yeah,
good.
The only thing Oldhim and like Guardian or Control has going for it now is the fact that Steadfast exists, and like you have that additional Arcane Barrier 1 from Lantern. But I think historically speaking, I think it does good against aggressive decks that also have Arcane. So like Dash, or like aggressive decks you just can't block out or you can't get any time for, like Prism, right? But I don't think it actually struggles. I think Control is probably one of the better matchups because you get way more space to actually set up OTKs.
Right. It's just Steadfast now that kind of flipped the switch on that.
Yeah, because that's just like, okay, well, now you go OTK and they just like, hey, here's block for 6.
Because in the past, you knew what their block ceiling was. It was 4 or 5, right? Now with Steadfast, like, you know that you can't expect to be able to go off the top or over the top.
Like maybe they have a sigil. Maybe like that's how you.
That was the only thing. It was sigil. You would arsenal a sigil and be like, "Ha, gotcha." Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Guy has a different experience with it.
I think I'm on the same page as you for this one, and I feel like if we go back to Toma Findel, like if you play against Control, you can set it up pretty easily, gain back like 5 or 6 life if you pair it up with the Tunic. So I feel like Control was pretty easy for Kano, but like we said, Steadfast change it up a bit, I guess.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, great. So I got one more question for you. What do you think of Kano in the current skirmish / battle hardened landscape, and then later on in the EU calling meta? Is he still top tier? And did he get an increase in power relative to some of the other heroes? So kind of
Yeah,
where does he fit currently in the tier system?
You already know how me and Rob kind of how high I already judged.
How we put him on
So
there.
I'm gonna leave this one. Either you think
I
I'm
was
batshit
shocked.
crazy.
I'll let
or-
Guy know that I was shocked at Eric's decision to put him in the B.
Look, I love Kano as much as the next Kano main, but
Yeah.
back then I played a lot of reps on Kano.
This is our chance to get Guy's fresh take on this. He'll settle the dispute once and for all.
Some days you need to like move past your love and just like take an
it's
objective
tough
kind
love.
of viewpoint here. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. I have to watch what I'm gonna say, or else I'm gonna get kicked out of the show, I guess.
You're gonna
Cancelled.
Yeah, but honestly, I think he's second tier in my opinion. So he used to be top tier back then, but I feel like now with Odin, which is the best deck in Blitz in my opinion, and Odin is favored to Kano, so I think he goes down to second tier. I still think he's pretty viable in the next Blitz season. So the other part, I think he's still good, but you need to have more reps than back then. Because like it was probably easier to pick up, but I feel like if you didn't test into Oldhim, you're gonna have an awful time. So I suggest if you want to bring Kano to the next skirmish season or whatever big events you're planning, you gotta put the reps in if you wanna succeed. Because like even like we said, Vis is gonna be popular, probably Chain as well, and it's probably 50-50 for those matchup. So if you're planning on winning Kano, you better be prepared.
Yeah, it's definitely like different decks, even though it's the same hero. Like all these additional strength cards that Everfest brought, I feel like you're almost sort of relearning the deck-ish, like playing around cards like Wildfire and Emmer's Scolding and Deja Vu. These cards are really hard to play. Like for like the regular, even when I started like putting some reps, I was losing a lot of games just because I wasn't like, I didn't really understand that I need to be like focusing way more than I thought I needed to on their turn. I thought it was just like another option, and I had to really like tweak and play around like the idea that, hey, I have some different win cons, or like it's just not really the same structure that I'm used to, especially with Potion of Deja Vu. I think that card needs a lot of practice. Like you like we make it sound like easy. Oh yeah, just put a tome or whatever. But like there's so many like. Okay, first of all, you only have 2 tomes, so you might not have the tome, and if you sack it off the top, you might not get to a point where you can use it with tome, right? So you need to really understand not only like your deck structure and how many threats you have, but what like play around with the hands that you need to use potion for. Like if there's a red count or a yellow count or a blue count or like a damage threshold that like if I can use potion to squeeze out another 3 damage or 4 damage, it's worth it. You know what I mean? Like very like specific kind of threshold.
Yeah, like figure out like when you should use it and when you shouldn't use it, right? Yeah,
but like to a bigger extent, because you could also use it on their turn because it's an instant. So it's there's all kinds of weird interactions, weird and wonderful interactions, as they say, for this card. That would be like my main takeaway for like if you're going to use it for this upcoming season. Really put time into understanding Wildfire and Potion of Deja Vu, because they are going to make or break a lot of the games nowadays, especially with the very hyper aggressive decks like Viscerai and Chain, and as even some of the like. I mean, Kasai's not as aggressive, but like she could put on some crazy damage also. And that's going to be the key, because they're all skill-based matchups. Like these matchups are all skill-based as far as like who breaks the 50-50. Yeah, like that's 10 games. Luck will play a factor in some of them. It's a card game. But as far as like your consistent matchups at big events when you're playing 9+ rounds of this, you're not going to play 9+ rounds of Kano not knowing exactly what your thresholds are on every single one of these cards, right? And I think that's like definitely a big kind of takeaway. I'm going to add a bonus question in here I just kind of thought of. What is your arsenal priority, Guy? What is like you're looking at a bunch of like tiers. It's like, oh yeah, you always slam this in the arsenal or this in the arsenal. It's like you do this and wait for this, right? I think mine has kind of changed. So I'm kind of curious on what is your arsenal priority in terms of what kind of hands you draw, depending on what matchups you're in. Maybe it changes your sideboards or whatever. I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, I think it's a big question because like it depends on where you are in the game, the board state, how many cards they have left in their end before you go to end step. But I think like Aether Wildfire is probably one of the best one right now, because like if you catch them like on the end where they got 1 card left or something like that, you definitely want this card in. Before Everfest, I think Blazing Aether was a staple, but
Mhm.
again, it depends because like if let's say you go first on turn 0, maybe you don't want to see this in Arsenal because like most of the time you're gonna get stuck with it because like you
Yeah.
don't want to break the boost on the second turn if you don't need to.
Yeah.
So I feel like Sonic Boom was a staple. Red Spindle was probably one of my favorite as well,
Yep. That's
and
fair.
Right.
Lesson in Lava. So I think these are
Okay.
the three I like the most, and I
Yeah.
think like Blazing and Fork both can be a trap if you get them too early in, because like you're
Yep.
gonna get stuck with those if you don't see a stir for the to pair up with the fork. So I think you need to be careful with those two cards.
No, I totally agree. I really like that you're kind of bringing up these nice, like 4 to 5 breakpoint cards that are able to be played in most scenarios off a blue or something like that. Like you don't need some crazy like forks. You don't
Right.
need some crazy ass combos to get it out.
Yeah.
And also like with Wildfire, like you can just get a stir in hand, get a stir off the top, and then that shit comes out as an instant, right? So
Yeah.
I think it also lends to the power of that card being able to be played on either turn, but also having a buff. I kind of agree with you. Probably Stir the Aether
Yeah.
Winds is a card that I love having in the arsenal just because like
Yeah.
It's
when I
versatile.
draw, it's versatile, but like it's kind of trappy ish. Like if they come at you like really hard and you don't have blues in an attack, like if you don't actually have enough to get the stir out with an attack,
Right.
it's just a trap because two is still expensive for a non. I say not attack, a non like
Yeah.
wizard
Non-damaging
spell, a
action.
non-damaging spell.
Yeah.
2 is expensive, um, and especially in
It's
Blitz
true.
when you're trying to close out games pretty quickly. So I liked it more beforehand. Now I kind of like Wildfire a little bit better, even though Stir is still good in the arsenal compared to like a blue. But I also kind of used to put Tome of Findel obviously from the arsenal because it's Tome of Findel, right? And like
Right.
the slower matchups. But even Tome of Aetherweave, it used to be something I put in there just like if I do have to block with a full hand, I can play Tome of Aetherweave, potentially get 2 blues, and still pitch for a Kano and get something off the top. That is
Right.
something that I've done before. Or you just get a better arsenal card. Like you do something, get a blue and a red, pitch a blue, maybe snipe the potion, and then arsenal the red. Like that's actually not bad considering the fact that you've gained board state on arsenal and you actually fully block, so you're preserving your life, right? So that used to be also like something that I definitely liked. But yeah, other than that, I kind of agree with like Sonic Boom Lessons, all very, very good cards that you can like string together with a lot of
Yeah. They seem to be like almost
enablers and
starters, right? Kind of these combos starter cards.
combo starters. Yep,
Yeah.
combo starters. Definitely Lessons of Lava, and Sonic Boom are like historically really good for that. But
Yeah.
other than that, like all the Arc Supers, all the Arc Majestics are kind of necessary in Kano nowadays. So
Fair enough. Yeah.
definitely strong.
Yeah, and I feel like the last one I didn't talk about, but I feel like you need to be careful with the Chain Lightning as well, because like
Yeah,
sometimes you just put it in Arsenal and then it becomes a dead card. You can't do much with it.
Right.
And like if you need to block more than you expect, then you can just keep a blue to play this one because like it's not gonna deal any damage. So I feel like you need to be careful with this, unless like they're about 10 life left, and like you know you're gonna kill them next turn. But other than that, you need to be careful early on with this card.
no, it totally makes
Yeah.
sense. I totally agree. It's just such an awkward card to have when you like can't get it off, just like
Yeah.
a dead card. And you need the arsenal. Like you need 5 card hands in Kano, even with like a
Right.
potion or something. You need it, especially in Blitz, CC also for that matter. But
Yeah.
I think that's all we had.
That's all I've
Appreciate
got,
you coming
yeah.
on. Appreciate you coming on and lending your wizard knowledge for us. You're probably not even gonna play him in skirmish season from now. I'm kidding. You probably will play a little bit of him in skirmish season for it.
Yeah.
But I think he is still always a threat. He's always
Yeah.
strong, and if you're not expecting him and you don't account for him, he's always going to be someone who can, like Kano, can like take games anytime, anywhere with the right player in the right deck, right? So it's definitely something to look out for skirmish, battle hardened, and even the calling in Krakow, the blitz calling. With that, for everyone watching at home, if you like this content, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Is there any other Kano pieces that we're missing that people really need to know about? Feel free to point it out. Maybe it's an attack line or a card or anything like that. Do you have any questions for us or Guy about the deck and Kano himself here? And with that, if you like the content and you want to see notifications, feel free to subscribe. Follow us on Twitter for all of our. I do make quite a few updates as far as like what's going to be on the channel for the upcoming week. as well as our early releases for Spotify, which I usually do either a day or two in advance, and those links are going to be up on Twitter. And I think that's pretty. We have our subscriber giveaway. Obviously, if you're not subscribed, it's another good reason to do so. And comments on your 2022 favorite video. Maybe it's this one. Maybe you're a Kano main, and like this is what you're aspiring Kano. This is the video you needed to like elevate your game to the next level, right? So maybe you can comment on this one. With that, wherever you're watching in the world, have a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Thanks for watching.